A group of friends makes a pact to stay awake past midnight to record their resolutions on an ancient camcorder found in a thrift shop. When they replay the footage, they find horrifying glimpses of their future deaths in gruesome detail. Hey everyone, welcome to this horrifying creepy story of New Year night. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon. It was supposed to be a joke, a stupid pact, something to pass the hours before the new year. We were just a group of friends, carefree, loud, and far too comfortable in the false belief that we were invincible. The kind of people who think nothing can go wrong when they're all together. That night, though, everything would change. It began innocently enough. An old camcorder found in the back of a thrift shop. The kind of thing no one would ever look twice at, coated in dust and stuck in a forgotten corner like so many other things from the past. But we found it, and somehow it felt like a sign. Like it was meant to be. We had gathered in the cabin in the woods, a remote place my friend Jared had rented for the weekend. It was supposed to be a break from the usual madness of city life, a time to get away, to laugh, and to do something ridiculous. It didn't help that we were all a bit drunk, the alcohol washing away any reservations or common sense. But none of us thought it would matter. The deal was simple. We would stay awake past midnight and each record a personal resolution on the camcorder. Nothing more, nothing less. Jared had been the one to suggest it, his voice brimming with that familiar cocky confidence that always made us follow his lead. We had laughed at first, but as the night wore on, a strange excitement began to build. It felt like something we'd look back on and laugh about. It was just a stupid game, nothing serious. But we didn't know then what we were getting ourselves into. I remember the camera. I still remember the way it looked. Old. So old that the buttons felt like they could snap if you pressed them too hard. The screen was cracked, the lens scratched, and the red recording light flickered on and off like it was struggling to stay alive. We didn't think much of it. We thought it was just another piece of junk until we started recording. Each of us stood in front of the camera, one by one, offering our resolutions to the year ahead. Jared went first. He grinned as he spoke, his usual bravado oozing from every word. I'm going to make more money. I'll be rich by the end of the year. I'm gonna have a new car, a new house, everything. We laughed. It was a typical Jared resolution, full of empty promises and ego. But as the camera clicked off, the room seemed to hold its breath for just a moment. It was strange, but we didn't think too much of it. Everyone followed suit. Sarah, with her usual, I'm going to find the love of my life nonsense. Mark, with his, I'm going to stop drinking so much, though we all knew he'd forget about it by the second week of January, and then it was my turn. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe I just wanted to feel included. But I said something stupid, something that still haunts me to this day. I will not run from fear, I said, my voice shaking just slightly as I held the camcorder. I will face whatever comes for me. The room went silent. I saw the flicker of unease in Jared's eyes, a glance exchanged between Sarah and Mark. I knew it wasn't normal, but I didn't know why. It was just a resolution. The camera clicked off. I remember walking away, chuckling awkwardly, and wondering why everyone was suddenly so quiet. But again, we brushed it off. We went on with the night. Laughter, music, the usual nonsense, but when we replayed the footage the next morning, things began to change. We were all gathered around, still half drunk, with the camcorder in hand. Jared, as usual, wanted to see what everyone had said. He pressed play, and the screen came alive with static before the footage finally cleared. The first thing that struck me was the way we looked pale, almost sickly. Our faces didn't seem right, like they were warped by some unseen force, and then it happened. Jared's resolution. The camera cut to him standing in front of the lens, a confident grin on his face as he boasted about wealth and success. But then the screen flickered again, and what we saw next made my blood run cold. Jared, still smiling in that cocky way, was standing next to his new car. But the image blurred, and for a brief second, we saw him lying on the road, blood spilling from his head. His body was twisted unnaturally, like something had snapped inside him. It was like a snapshot of a future, one that hadn't happened yet, but seemed so real. The room went quiet. It was like someone had sucked the air out of it. Everyone looked at one another, unsure if we were just seeing things. But no one spoke. No one dared to. Sarah was next. She smiled, her voice bright as she spoke of finding love. We watched her, waiting for the flicker that had haunted Jared's footage. It came, but it was different. Sarah was in a park, sitting on a bench, smiling up at someone. But the smile didn't reach her eyes. Then the footage warped again. I saw it. A man in a black coat, his face obscured by shadows. Mark was on the floor, his face pale, eyes wide open in terror, as if something invisible was choking the life out of him. He reached for the bottle, but his hands couldn't grip it. The screen went black, and then it was my turn. I can't explain the sensation I felt, the panic that rose in my chest as I saw my own face on that screen. Mark was on the floor, his face pale, eyes wide open in terror, as if something invisible was choking the life out of him. He reached for the bottle, but his hands couldn't grip it. The screen went black, and then it was my turn. I can't explain the sensation I felt, the panic that rose in my chest as I saw my own face on that screen. I had no words, no resolution to offer. I had already made my pact, but as the camera clicked on, I felt something shift. The footage was different. I didn't see myself standing before the camera, but in an old, empty house, wandering through rooms that seemed too dark, too quiet. I called out for someone, but the sound of my voice echoed back in a way that didn't sound like me at all. I turned a corner, and there, at the end of the hall, I saw it. A figure, tall, cloaked in shadows. It was like it had been waiting for me. It stepped forward. Its face was a blur, but I knew it was something worse than human. And then, just before the camera cut out, I saw its hand reaching for me, its fingers long and twisted. The footage ended. The silence that followed was unbearable. None of us spoke for what felt like an eternity. I don't know what we were waiting for, but we knew that something had changed. We tried to rationalize it. We told ourselves it was just a coincidence, a trick of the camera. But deep down, we all knew the truth. The footage had shown us the end, but we didn't realize the full consequences until it was too late. Days passed, and Jared, still confident, continued to joke about the footage. But one evening, we got a call. Jared had died. A car accident. The very thing we had seen. Sarah disappeared a week later. The park, the bench, the man, everything. She was gone. Mark? He drank himself into oblivion, the vision of his own death haunting him until the end. And me? I'm still here. The thing I didn't know, the thing none of us understood, was that the pact was never meant to be broken. It wasn't just about staying awake, about making resolutions. It was about the price we paid for knowing the future. I had no words, no resolution to offer. I had already made my pact, but as the camera clicked on, I felt something shift. The footage was different. I didn't see myself standing before the camera, but in an old, empty house, wandering through rooms that seemed too dark, too quiet. I called out for someone, but the sound of my voice echoed back in a way that didn't sound like me at all. I turned a corner, and there, at the end of the hall, I saw it. A figure, tall, cloaked in shadows. I hope you enjoyed this story. If it gave you chills, then I did my job right. If you have any thoughts or feedback, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think, and if there's anything you'd like to see next. Subscribe for more creepy tales.